welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back in to another special episode. If you're watching the video, you saw me take a swig of my coffee and then attempt to bang out a text before I sent this in. Listen, we have before we get to the episode, which is very light on news. It's 3 days old, 3 days late, but who cares? I wasn't gonna find anything that the day I usually record. You'll notice that I have an interview lined up with none other than Jocko Sims, actor and person who likes to act in things extraordinaire. You can tell I'm trying to find his Wikipedia. You may recognize Jocko Sims from wonderful projects such as Dreamgirls, as well as Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, as well as TV shows including The Crash, the televised version of the movie Crash. Did I watch Crash? And did I watch Crash? You better believe I watched both of them. Did I enjoy the movie? He also was starring in the show The Last Ship. He was on The Resident, and after that, New Amsterdam. And then he popped up on High Potential for a couple episodes, which I did mention during the interview. Now he's recurring on the show Grosse Pointe Garden Society. He's an excellent person who, I'll say this, gave me a lot of personality in the interview, and I loved it. I love it when people give me personality. I mean that. He challenged the name C Plus Comedy, told me to change it. He talked about how, and know that it is 9 o'clock in the morning, and I don't have the word in my head just yet. So I'm going to use a word that I don't want to use. But he also noted how influential New Amsterdam is on his life, because after he starred in that, boy howdy, people recognize him left and right. Jocko's a nice guy, and I think you should check out the show. Again, we know that I do like Grosse Pointe Garden Society. If you want to see a video version of this interview, it is available right now on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. If you want to listen to it, if you are listening to this, you're listening to it. So it'll be up in half a second. If you want to see a video version of this podcast, the other podcasts, youtube.com/cpluscomedy. Follow Jocko on Instagram at JOCKOSIMS. He also has a TikTok somewhere. Check him out there. Watch High Potential on ABC, The Last Ship, New Amsterdam, wherever you get your TV shows, and Grosse Pointe Garden Society. Now, get ready for Jocko Sims. Yeah, baby. Yeah. And we're back. Okay. You know what I've been noticing is that every time for the last several of these, I don't put up in the transition from the conversation for the video and the transition from the conversation to the rest of the show, the introduction for the conversation, the rest of the show, rather. For the video, since the interview is already out in a different form, usually I put up a little transition thing that says the Constitutionals are return. I have not been putting that up. Hold on, I have to respond to my mom. Okay. Oh my God, you can't call me in the middle of this show. I'm working. I can't pause, which is unfortunate. Okay, Anyway, welcome back in. What's been going on? Unfortunate news. Nova has passed away, my cat. I don't want to talk about it, but she is no longer with us. And Maverick is sad. I'm sad. We're all sad here. Let's see. I'm not doing Late Night Lately this week. Matlock ended its first season. So I'm excited to check out the last two episodes I had yesterday. I did not check it out because yesterday was Easter, and I have a standing date with a friend's family every single Easter. They throw this big Easter celebration for people in the neighborhood and around the city. And it's always at their house, and I show up. Hide some Easter eggs. They kept calling me out, though, which I was not happy about. They would call me out in front of like the entire group of people, and we're not going to throw eggs, are we, Chad? And I'm just sitting there like, are you kidding me? Oh, my God. And then this morning, where was I? Oh, this morning. Yeah, okay. Well, the Pope passed away. Okay, so here's the thing. This is what happened. I do the bathroom stuff. It's 3:50. I do the bathroom stuff. I get out of the bathroom, contacts, teeth, poop, all that stuff. Not in that order. Just reverse that. And I'm putting on my clothes to get ready to go to the treadmill, which is in the storage unit. And I get a vibration on my wrist. And usually, the New York Times will send me something, or I'll get an errant email or something, promotional, something like that. And I see New York Times has said the Pope died. I went, oh my goodness, the Pope is dead. He made it through. And I remember seeing a headline for Easter. Pope, I see him out there touching people, celebrating Easter. What a crazy thing to see. Which happens. What if we just get a diverse Pope? I've seen the HBO show Young Pope. Or is it New Pope or Young Pope? I think it's Young Pope. I watched the first season. I didn't see the second season. That Young Pope, he was cool. This Pope was pretty cool. I don't think he understood. There's some stuff he still didn't understand, but he was pretty cool. Also, I didn't know he was the first Latin Pope. Okay. Oh, what else have I been doing? I've been watching The Studio. I didn't think I was going to, but I did. Yeah, I wish we could just put out a show or a movie and not talk about or over talk about parts of it. Every single person from every single review of this, or excuse me, every single because I don't read reviews. Every interview that Seth did from just CBS to Howard Stern. Every single person talked about. I don't know if you hear this dog barking, but it's ridiculous. It's not my dog, I'll tell you much. They were talking about the second episode, which was shot in one take. And it's as if every single time this happens, it's like no one has ever seen something like this before. Yes, we've all seen one take things, one shot movies and episodes and everything. It's crazy. Anyway, if you work in the industry, the show is, you understand everything that just happens. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. I do like that Seth Rogen's character. This is what we don't have enough of in every single TV show. I'm saying this for a majority of the TV shows. I understand there's struggle, and Bob's Burgers, they struggle every single episode, and that's the charm of the show. But we're far enough into the world of television where we don't need to see every single person struggle. I'm not trying to sit there and relate to King of Queens all the time, That's why how many episodes of The Simpsons or Family Guy or American Dad have we seen where they just go places because they have a story to tell, as opposed to Bob's Burgers, where sure the whole thing of the show is the character interplay, whatever. But at some point, the show's been on for 15, 16 years. We've got to do more. It's all stale. We have to get out and do more. So that's why I like in the studio, and this is what I appreciated about the first episode of Blackish, is that the main characters, Anthony Anderson and Seth Rogen for these shows, they get the promotions that they're expecting, but it's the work or the title in the case of Anthony Anderson's character that comes with it. That things need to change. Things are going to have to change, or you have to step up. So that's what I appreciate about the studio the most, is that this guy is going to be the head of the studio within minutes. I don't think we need the Catherine O'Hara character at all. But everybody else is doing a great job. Not that saying that she's not doing a great job, but I don't think we need that character. And then there's also Your Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm, also on Apple TV+. It's an excellent show. I do want to say on the opposite end of that stuff, on everything I just said, I don't want to see people struggling all the time. And then on the other end, with the exception of Succession and even in this case, Your Friends and Neighbors, I kind of don't want to see. I don't want to see rich people porn either. I don't want to see people living these extravagant, lavish lifestyles. That's one reason why I don't want to watch The White Lotus. There's a lot of other reasons. There's a lot of other reasons I don't want to watch that crap. But can we just live in the middle sometimes? That's why a show like The Goldbergs is great. Because what was it? Straight Off the Boat. Is that what it's called? Oh my God. I don't even know that. Fresh Off the Boat. I understand that, what's his name? Eddie Wong didn't like the creative direction of the show and he left because they did ABC-ify that show. However, I do appreciate that at some point we don't have to watch these people struggle anymore. We can just watch them tell other stories. All right. Let's get into it. Oh, haven't been playing any games. Atom Fall, which is one I forgot to mention last week. I'm playing Atom Fall. It's all right. It's fine. I'm trying to knock out God of War 2018 because Ragnarok is on PlayStation Plus. So when I finish God of War 2018, then I'll subscribe to PlayStation Plus and play Ragnarok. But at this point in time, I don't want to rush it, and I've had that game since 2018, so it's been a very long time. It takes me a long time to play games. Pokemon takes me a long time to play Pokemon. What's the last game I beat? Indiana Jones. Yeah, that's the last game I beat. And then before that, like Star Wars. Fallen Order? Is that what it's called? I don't know. The one with Cal and the second one with Cal is a much better game than the first one. All right, let's get on to this news. This comes from Deadline, written by Jake Cantor. CNN chief says network should not be, quote, throwing punches in Trump coverage. Voices support for Associated Press amid White House ban. Here's the thing about this headline. Mark Thompson, you cannot have it both ways. He's gone on record, and the same thing as Zaslav, David Zaslav, who runs Warner Brothers Discovery. They've both gone on record saying CNN needs to be more center, and they need to stop, having opinions. The anchors and correspondents stop having opinions. The thing is, what they're fighting for is mostly a Fox 5, a Foxification, a Fox Newsification. They're trying of CNN. And when you say something like we shouldn't be throwing punches in Trump coverage, that is exactly what they should be doing, what CNN people should be doing, what MSNBC people should be doing, what PBS should be doing. CBS Evening News. When something is wrong, you correct it. When Maverick does something wrong, I tell him to sit, stay, stop, all that stuff. I don't just let him keep doing it and go, you're good, you're being a bad boy. No, I don't. I tell him to stop, sit, stay, don't do anything. And when you don't make a decision, when you make a decision to back off, the thing is going to keep happening. But when you don't report the news and you don't keep going, then what's the point? In an interview with the Financial Times, the former New York Times and BBC boss said it was not CNN's job to fight political regimes, but to report on them without prejudice. The second thing is, I can't, with the exception of one guy who's now gone, Acosta, who has prejudice? They're reporting the news. Now, if you're talking about people who have prejudice, I can name so many correspondents who you like to hire and do have prejudice. So what are we doing here? You cannot be down the middle on this. You have to take a stand. And then when he comes after you, when he comes after the Associated Press, that's when you feel obligated to say something. Thompson said, "We shouldn't slip into the idea that part of our job is to oppose political forces as such. Our job is to cover the political contest rather than head into the ring and start throwing punches ourselves." What Thompson is afraid of and what Zaslav is afraid of is for them to be caught up in something along the lines of being banned from the White House press pool, as have Associated Press and other outlets been banned. And in the same token, they don't want to be sued in the same way that CBS is being sued or ABC was being sued because of something that their people have said. Because George Stephanopoulos said something, and then ABC was being sued, and then they settled out of court. And now CBS is being sued, and who knows if this Skydance Paramount merger is going to happen. But if you bow down to this, then CNN is no longer going to be the same trusted news source that you want it to be. Like you're already running on fumes at CNN and Warner Brothers. Why not add some fuel to yourselves internally and stop being little pansies and report the news and do something about it? We can't have opinions, but we have to report this news. Okay, well, if they do their jobs and it's still an opinion. In any case, I mean, if Trump deports a man who's been in the country for 12 years, if people are reporting facts on that, is that opinion? No, it's news. The analogy that Thompson put out was notable and perhaps not an accident. After one of Trump's most famous run-ins with CNN in 2017, during which he tweeted a video showing himself beating a man with a CNN logo superimposed on his face, Trump punches CNN in a juvenile tweet was the headline from CNN's Brian Settler at the time. In further comments to the Financial Times, Thompson said CNN must, quote, report on the government of the day in whichever country it is, in a way that is, quote, accurate and fair-minded, doesn't labor under its own prejudices or biases, and doesn't shy away from holding power to account. During the same interview, Thompson said he strongly supported the Associated Press in the agency's efforts to win back the White House. The AP reported that a journalist and photographer were barred from the Oval Office news press conference on Monday. This was despite a federal court order that forbids Trump's administration from punishing the AP for refusing to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Thompson said that the AP was a valuable partner. So he's trying not to ruin what CNN has and connected in the AP. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said anything. Because CNN and a lot of other news outlets use the AP wire. They pay for the right to use the AP wire to get up-to-date sources and all that stuff, as well as they I believe, and this is not the right word, but they contract AP, Associated Press, and put a lot of some of their stories on CNN's website. So sometimes you'll see, on USA Today or whatever other website. They're not exactly USA Today, but like whatever other news website, you'll see Associated Press in the byline, and sometimes that's what happens. CNN has lost its bite, and hiring somebody like Mark Thompson, who is a business person. Yes, he worked at the BBC. Yes, he worked at the New York Times, and he was able to right the ship that was the BBC, and he was able to form a good digital landscape for the New York Times. I still think there's a lot of issues that are still relevant with the New York Times in terms of organization, and digitally. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the right person to run a worldwide broadcast news organization, and digital, and something that has a digital footprint as big as CNN. Because when he was in BBC, that was a long time ago. The New York Times, yes, it was more recent, but as I said, they still need to work on some of their digital presence. If in order for CNN to really change, they're going to have to go back to the previous idea of what CNN was created for. And I think, and this goes for Fox News and this goes for MSNBC, I think they're already producing 18 hours of news a day. They scale it back. Keep the same people. Don't fire anybody, but scale it back and just do better all around. Because at some point, you're just repeating the same story every hour, on the hour, with the same talking points, and nothing's ever going to change. If you don't believe me, watch news all day long and see how that affects things. In the same way, you can even see it in the morning between, let's just say, let's take Sports Center. You can see it from that first Sports Center, which I think is at 5 or 6, all the way up to First Take. It's the same stories over and over again. The same screaming heads, not talking heads, the same screaming heads. Screaming Heads is my favorite Talking Head cover band, but they only do it everything in Screamo. Now just imagine a Talking Head song in Screamo. I don't have the voice to do it. Let me tell you, I was about to do Stop Making Sense in Screamo, but I don't have the voice to do it. Let's move on. This comes from Engadget, written by Ian Carlos Campbell. Deezer reports 18% of the music uploaded to its service every day is AI generated. The company debuted a tool for labeling AI music in January. We have this problem with music streaming services, but I've noticed it on YouTube. I see it on social media apps like Instagram and TikTok, and I'm not even somebody that scrolls through things. This is what I just notice these sometimes when I'm just posting for C+ Comedy. But it's going to be much more prevalent, especially when it comes to music. For video, you can kind of pull things out and go, well, that's not Unreal, the Unreal engine. That's not a video game. That's not a movie. That's not something that Warner or Disney made or some person made in their home. That's an AI tool. Deezer is a streaming service for music. I don't know anyone who's used Deezer before, but it's a decent alternative for whatever other stations platforms you like, and enough people use it. But apparently, on Wednesday, they shared that 20,000 completely AI-generated tracks are added to its music service on a daily basis, which makes up roughly 18% of all uploaded content that the platform receives every single day. Now, everybody is different. Deezer, YouTube, Spotify, every single one of these places is different when it comes to being able to upload music. Unfortunately, anybody can upload music on these platforms, which really, really stinks. So that's where you get things like a fake Eminem rapping over a song or a fake Drake or what have you. They're ruining what independent artists have been using for a very long time. Now, Deezer introduced a tool for detecting and tagging AI-generated content in January 2025, when at the time, AI-generated music only made up 10% of uploads. AI companies contend that training on existing books, movies, music, and internet ephemera is fair use, but many of the people who made the material feel differently. In terms of pushback, AI music startups Suno and Udio were sued by record labels for copyright infringement in 2024, and artists have spoken out about, quote, unlicensed AI training, but there's yet to be a ruling that sets the new legal standard. These are reasons why we had SAG strikes and writer strikes, and then why we avoided the director strike and producer strikes, because people's jobs could be taken or ruined or imploded because of these AI tools. I see so many AI videos on YouTube sometimes. I'm just scrolling through trying to find a review for a piece of workout equipment. And listen, Beyond Power, if anybody could give me $2,000 for Beyond Power Vulture 1, or I will also take a Torg tank, preferably one of the bigger ones. I'll take it. Give it to me. But now we're at a point where we have to combat these things and really lock down the law on what people can do with AI generated objects. Because if something's labeled AI generated, then it's time. You can't make money from it. You should not be able to make money from any of this. I record audiobooks for Audible periodically. And I received an email about 2 weeks ago saying, opt in to create an AI track of your voice to make making audiobooks easier. And I went, no, no, thank you. That's not happening. Which is so funny because they're on the rules for Audible's platform. They say you cannot use AI voices. Yet, how many books have I auditioned for it that are AI generated? How many books have I auditioned for it that have the covers are AI generated? The titles. Literally, like reading some of the things that in the audition is insane. And again, I do want to what's preface? What's the opposite of preface? Suffice? Surface? I do want to say this. I was adamantly against AI. However, now we are at a point where it's going to be a part of our lives. Whether we like it, whether we want it to, whether we like it or not. So at this stage, I think it's better to rein it in now and put locks and handicaps on it before we become too reliant on it. Before we start allowing books to be released with AI components and music and movies. James Cameron said he wanted to implement AI without getting people fired or let go from their jobs, severed from their jobs. And I do think that there is a way to do it smartly, and that is to use AI sparingly. When you cook dinner, you just don't throw an entire pack of salt. I have jars, so I don't know how people salt things, but I put everything in mason jars and all my spices so I can just dig my dirty little hand in there. And then I have grinders and stuff like that. But if I'm preparing a meal, I don't just, throw salt everywhere. I use it sparingly and where it needs to be used. And yes, some things need to be salted more than other things, but we have to know what is the right amount of usage for these AI tools. I'm not saying get rid of it entirely because that's impossible at this point. But there does need to be a way for people. There has to be a cap on it, something. Because I'm not paying for anything that's AI generated. I'm not going to watch anything that's AI generated. But if James Cameron puts out Avatar, Fire and Ash, and they said we all of our designers, the 3 animators we made, were working on the fire, and now they had help with this AI tool, I'll be fine. But if it was like this scene was generated AI, I'm gonna be like, I can't watch this movie. And finally, this comes from, speaking of Hollywood, The Hollywood Reporter. Katie Kilkenny. Higher costs are hitting film and TV producers, even as studios keep trimming budgets. If you're a part of the industry and you haven't been caught in a trim yet, oh boy. The tariffs are not just threatening the products that we buy, it's also threatening what we make here at home in America, in Hollywood. For many in the production space, fears are mounting that the current and threatened tariffs, are, as well as the unpredictability of the future of global trade, could harm the already weakened state of domestic film and television set work. Creatives who spoke to the Hollywood Reporter largely aren't yet feeling the impacts of the latest developments in import taxes. After Trump announced a baseline tariff on all imported goods with further penalties for about dozens of countries on April 2nd, he reversed course and now the 10% baseline, a 25% tariff on certain Canadian and Mexican goods, cars, and steel and aluminum imports, and a 145% tariff on Chinese goods is in effect for now. This is released April 17th, excuse me. So some of that might be dated. But some industry types aren't taking any chances. Construction coordinator Karen Higgins, who has worked on projects like WandaVision and Twin Peaks: The Return, says she and others in her cohort are stockpiling materials. Still, she notes, you can only store so much lumber. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. What happens when, evidently, at some point, there's going to be, a last minute shoot that needs to happen with a last minute set that needs to be created, and it can't be digital. It has to be a real set, and you need the lumber, or you need the tools to make it, and you can't import it. So what happens there? You have to spend more money in order to get it, even though you don't have the money to spend it. Paint, lumber, all that stuff. To construct sets, crew members frequently use lumber that might often be sourced from Canada and Southeast Asia, plywood from Southeast Asia, and steel from China. Mostly because it's probably cheaper to get it over there and sent over here than it is to go to a place in America and buy it. The wardrobe department would also see unique impacts. Productions often source fabrics from all over the world and sometimes import rental costumes from well-known houses in Europe. U.S.-based vendors could also face steeper costs and raise prices. This is very true. In a contradictory industry environment with the state of the business still delicate, several creatives also express concerns that any additional production costs might supercharge the decades-long trend of productions moving overseas for savings. Again, we know that a bunch of TV shows were shot in Australia in this past couple of years, a bunch of American shows, and Young Rock was shot in Australia. A lot of it was shot in Australia and here in Atlanta. And Australia would stand in for, the South, Tennessee, which is crazy, as opposed to just shooting in Tennessee. And then I know there's a Good Cop, Bad Cop on the CW shot in Australia. I think that's what it's called. it's impossible now. We're at a point where I don't know if we're ever going to go back to stuff being shot on location in terms of American things anymore, or even shot in country. Because even if a lot of things are moving over to the East Coast or to middle America for, cheaper productions, that doesn't necessarily mean that those places are still safe from losing the same productions. Studios would rather go to New Zealand or Australia or Africa or Japan or China. I don't know if that's true. In order to shoot their projects and say, "Hey, this looks like LA." Oh, that's going to be bad when eventually when something goes to like South Korea and they go, "Welcome to LA." Just have everybody in LA like going insane. The entertainment industry's been hit by a lot of stuff in the past couple of years. These strikes, the pandemic, the LA fires. The box office still hasn't rebounded, with the exception of a couple of blockbusters and things like Oppenheimer and Barbie and Wicked. It's IP. LA shoot days have been down sufficiently, and the strikes didn't help. And it doesn't look like they're going to rebound anytime soon. I mean, in January 2023, they were at a high of 7,476 shoot days. Now, January 2025, they're at 5,295. That's a pretty big drop off. And then when you consider that studios aren't hiring anymore, and there's more firings or layoffs happening than ever, it just feels like the industry is being pointed in a way that we can't reverse what's happening. What it would take. There are a few things I think that are feasible for the industry to bounce back, but I do think that the people in charge aren't willing to do this. And one such idea involves truly the people at the top losing a lot of the money that they make and spreading it even over the productions that they have, and using money from, let's just take Disney into account. Use money from the Captain America Winter Soldier. What is that movie called? I don't know. The Captain America one with Anthony Mackie. Use the money from Avengers Doomsday. Use all that money you make on these blockbusters. And yes, recoup the costs for yourself, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But take some of that money and then invest it into people who can be your next generation of filmmakers and television makers and musicians and designers and set people and costumes and producers and directors and actors. Invest in those people. That's all. That would be it would take somebody as big as Disney or Warner or even Paramount, any one of these companies, in order to do that. And if they do that, and I'm not kidding, if they do that for 3 years instead of timeline and say, I don't know who's in charge of Paramount right now. It's not Bob Backus, she's gone, but who is probably Chris McCarthy or somebody. He used to be in charge of Comedy Central, now he's in charge of the whole thing. But what it would take is like David Zaslav, who's making 50, who made so much money last year. It's insane. To make $1 million for the next 3 years, and then reinvest all that money, all the stock, all that money, and just really trust your creatives and just build from within, even if it if you can't hire more people, or if you choose not to hire more people, then let it happen. That's what I would do. I don't need much in my life. So that's what I would do. Okay, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people sometimes, like Jocko Sims. If you want to see a video version of this show, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see a video version of this show, as well, as well as a video version of the other podcasts, Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, which is on break for a couple of weeks, and LinkedIn Logs, which is the Jobs podcast. Subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the interviews on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. I talk to a lot of famous people. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Facebook at cpluscomedy. Me on those platforms at Chad Black White. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.